Welcome back. We're going to hear from the candidates for Port Commissioner for the Port of Kennewick. We have candidates running for District 1 and District 2. For District 1, we have Don Barnes and John Givens. For District 2, we have Leo Bowman and Thomas Moak. As with the other positions, they have 2 minutes for opening. We'll do all the opening statements, and then we'll go to the questions. So, again, it was determined by a toss of the coin, and we will begin with Mr. Barnes.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity today, as well as the other sponsors of this forum. I've been a home-owning, tax-paying resident of Kennewick for 30 of the past 34 years. I've been married to my wife, Chris, for almost 40 years. We've raised our son and daughter here and now have enjoyed visits from our 2 grandchildren here. I studied at Washington State University and achieved a Bachelor of Science degree, then went on to obtain a Master's in Business Administration from the University of Washington. I have over 30 years experience with all facets of commercial real estate, from development, financing, to brokerage, sales, and leasing. I'm presently a licensed broker at Coldwell Banker. I'm running to retain a seat on the Port Commission because I want to continue to give back to our community. I have 4 priorities for the Port of Kennewick. My vision for the Port is that the Port be effective in the pursuit of its goals and objectives. And those goals and objectives are economic development, job creation, or quality of life projects that benefit our constituents. And secondly, my priority for the Port is that they balance the pursuit of these goals and objectives with bottom line fiscal responsibility. And you can see that if we focus entirely on our goals and objectives and lose sight of the bottom line, then we're not being good stewards of the taxpayer resources. Conversely, if we hold the bottom line paramount, we're competing too aggressively with the private sector, and we lose sight of our goals and objectives. So this is a balance. Thirdly, my priority for the Port is that we be good, strong, collaborative team players with all of our jurisdictional partners, the cities of Kennewick, Richland, West Richland, and Benton City, as well as Benton County, all the levels of government, and most importantly, the private sector in creation of new jobs. And finally, I hold myself and the Port to the highest standards of accountability with honesty, integrity, and transparency in all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will now hear from Mr. Givens.
Thank you. I too would like to thank all of the sponsors. I want to thank the people that are here tonight also, and the people at home who will be watching this on television over the next several weeks. I look at this as applying for a job. And I have an extensive website at electjohngivens.com. We have pamphlets in the back of the room that will tell you about all of those things Don just told you about himself. Family, how long been here, that type of thing. I want to tell you what I think separates me from Don as I apply for this position at the Port of Kennewick. I have graduate school level education in public policy and finance. I bring 13 years experience as a Port Commissioner from Asotin County, Washington to this job, and 7 years managing the Port of Kennewick from 1997 to 2004. While I was a Port Commissioner, I was unanimously elected by my peer commissioners across the state of Washington to serve as president of the Washington Ports Association. I have more port experience than anyone today associated with the Port of Kennewick. I served as Senior Vice President of the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association, which is an organization that provides federal legislative assistance to ports in Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. And I've represented Washington ports through 2 governor appointments on state boards. My opponent feels the major role of ports today is economic development. To that level, I've served as president of the Asotin County Economic Development Association, vice president of the Southeast Washington Economic Development Association, twice chairman of the Tri-City Visitors and Convention Bureau, and serve on the boards of the Kennewick and Tri-Cities Public Facilities District, and a governor's appointment to the Hanford Area Economic Investment Fund. So I bring a wealth of economic development knowledge to the Port of Kennewick. And if the voters will give me 2 years to prove that I can walk the talk, I think I will make you a great Port Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, that 2 minutes went fast.
It can. We will move on to the candidates for District 2 and begin with Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, and I too would like to thank the Tri-City Herald, the League of Women Voters, as well as the media for sponsoring this event tonight. And most of all, I want to thank the participants, you as the viewers at home and here in the audience. Under the guidance and direction of numerous groups that include the City of Kennewick, the Port of Kennewick, and the Historic Downtown Partnership, there have been at least 4 studies completed towards the redevelopment of Columbia Drive area in the City of Kennewick in the past 10 to 15 years at a cost of over $300,000. To date, nothing has been done on any one of those studies. As a Benton County Commissioner, I was appointed lead on numerous projects. They would include the expansion of the jail and the Justice Center in Kennewick. This project was completed on time and under budget at a cost of over $50 million without an increase of taxes to the citizens. The Intertie Road project, now known as SR 397. This project had been in planning stages for over 40 years. It is now complete and opens up many acres of land of the port's land for an economic development in Findlay. As a member of the Transportation Improvement Board and its chairman, there were over 35 grants received in the Tri-Cities totaling almost $18 million for street and road improvements. 1 grant in Benton County, 9 grants in Richland, and 21 grants to the City of Kennewick. Under my leadership, Sunset and Ontanori roads on Red Mountain were paved and completed. Ontanori Road was an international project with a substantial amount of funding coming from Italy. I was the lead commissioner on the Red Mountain Sub-Area Plan. I was a chairman of the Yakima River Salmon Recovery Board and led the organization for over 10 years. This board includes elected officials from all 3 counties, every city and town on the Yakima River, and a very strong presence in the Yakima Indian Nation. And I was given special recognition by the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission for my work on salmon recovery. As you can see, I work well within many diverse groups. As you can see, I get things done. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final candidate is Mr. Moak.
It's time for vision, it's time for leadership, it's time for progress. Hello, I'm Thomas Moak. What happens with the Port of Kennewick in the next 6 years is critical to your future and the future of the Tri-Cities. My vision for the former Vista Field Airport creates a new vista that brings wealth to this community with mixed-use development, high-rise buildings with a grand vista, open space, art, and architecture, and creates jobs. New Vista means partnerships with the public and private sectors and private investment in our community. Working cooperatively, I will implement a vision for port properties on Columbia Drive in Kennewick that transforms a neglected area into a vibrant waterfront wine village. The Port of Kennewick owns the old Tri-City Raceways in West Richland, a gateway to Red Mountain, the state's premier wine-growing area. I will work to utilize this property to capitalize on its key strategic locations. What great opportunities to benefit the region and you, the taxpayers of the Port of Kennewick. I will use my demonstrated leadership experience where I have led state and local organizations, including serving as mayor of Kennewick, to develop partnerships, bring leaders together, and formulate plans to move the Tri-Cities forward. However, rather than capitalize on these assets in which the port has invested hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, my opponent would rather divert the port to pursue some undefined jobs at undefined locations in Findlay. Not a wise decision when it is your and my taxpayers' dollars he wants to spend. I think he's out of touch with our community's aspirations. There is a difference between us. I hope you'll vote for me, Thomas Moak, as your next Port of Kennewick Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you all. We will now move on to the question and answer portion. We have some questions from the audience. 2 of these are very similar, and we'll begin with District 1 with Mr. Barnes. One says, the Port of Kennewick Commissioners, what is the biggest problem that faces the port that the port needs to address now? And another one says, what do you see as the largest challenge facing the port? So maybe one is short-term and one is long-term, if we interpret it that way.
Okay, so what is the biggest problem facing the
port now that
Is
needs
it
to be
short-term?
addressed, and facing the port in the future? So
Okay. Well, one of the differences in this race is that my opponent believes the biggest challenge facing the port short term is the difference between operating revenues and operating expenses, and I completely disagree. The port right now has operating revenues of about they're about $1.2 million, $1.5 million less than operating expenses. But if you include land sales, which is a routine activity of the Port of Kennewick, there's actually a surplus of about $500,000 per year. And if it's argued that, well, you can't rely on land sales because the port has to go out and replenish that land supply, then I would simply point you to Vista Field and say that we have a 20-year supply of land there. We have 95 acres at the Tri-City Raceway. So with land sales, our operating revenues are more than adequate to cover our operating expenses, and so the port is in excellent financial condition. On the long-term scale, the biggest challenge facing the port is we need to get Vista Field done properly, not to settle for a short-term fix that is a compromise or less than what it should be. We need to aim high. We need to make this the asset for our community that our community craves and deserves, and it will give us identity in our community. And so I think the biggest challenge is to get community involvement with Vista Field, get the planning done, and to get that done properly so that it turns out to be the asset for the community that it should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Givens?
Don, a farmer doesn't sell his or her land to meet the operating expenses of getting the crop in. You have to have a source of cash flow that is steady each year. The Port of Kennewick has a $2,308,000 shortfall from operating income to operating expenses as of the 2013 budget that Mr. Barnes signed. The Port of Walla Walla, or the Port of Benton, has a $41,000 shortfall. The Port of Pasco has an $841,000 surplus. That's bringing in enough money on a revenue basis every year to pay expenses. The Port of Kennewick relies on its $3.4 million tax base to do that. That money should be used for the capital expenditures like Vista Field, like West Richland, like what they want to do in Richland. But if you only have $1 million a year, the biggest shortfall is how do we have the money for all the capital improvements that everybody wants to have made? You need to find a way, like the other ports have done, and like ports across the state have done, to generate that money internally. And I'm good at that. I spent 35 years as a commercial banker. I budget every day. And I know it can be done. If other ports can do it, so can the Port of Kennewick. It's about cash flow.
Thank you. I guess we'll let you two answer this same question. We'll try not to make it too boring. So that's up to you. What do you see as the current challenge that needs to be addressed immediately, and what's facing the port long range? Oh, I'm sorry, you want to know who's first?
Yeah.
It's Mr. Bowman.
Thank you. The two challenges, one of the major challenges that government always has is its competitiveness against private industry. And it's also a challenge to get private industry involved in the work of a government agency. So those are challenges that are always present today, tomorrow, and well into the future. Another challenge is always, again, as the county has always been since I was a county commissioner, is balancing the budget, living within its earned revenues as well as its tax revenues. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Moak.
Well, I think the biggest challenge and opportunity that I see for the Port of Kennewick in the short term is harnessing the leverage of TRIDEC and the Visitor Convention Bureau and the Chamber, who all chose and voted to close Vista Field Airport and recommend to the Port Commission that Vista Field Airport be closed. How do we harness their leadership in making Vista Field better and being that focal point for the Tri-Cities region? And I think that if we're going to move ahead as a region and as a port of Kennewick in terms of developing Vista Field, it can't just be the small port of Kennewick. It needs to involve a larger body of folks, including the public at large. And so I think the Port of Kennewick has been probably a little reticent in terms of involvement with the public and involvement with these other partners over the years. And I think now the port needs to step up and step out and work with leadership. And I, as a leader, would like to work with these specific groups in order to develop a Vista Field that is second to none and that provides the opportunities that I think we want and the revenues back to the community that we deserve.
Thank you. We'll go back to District 1 and we'll begin with Mr. Givens. We have a question that says, what is your feeling about accepting special interest campaign funding? Now, this is for all of you. I will open this a little broader to the challenges of running for something like a port position, the challenges of being a candidate, and how you will respond to not just special interest campaign funding, but other special interests in the community. And we'll begin with Mr.
I
Givens.
get to start. I'm totally against it. I've had the opportunity in my campaign to have some special interest funding, and I declined it. I know my opponent has taken several $1,000s in special interest funding, but to me, I decided to do this. I'm financing my own campaign. I haven't asked anybody for money. My pamphlets do say if you want to give, you can, but I just don't believe in it. You know, the other day I asked Don a question. I said, Don, you know, with all the advertising based upon our difference in dollars and cents from the port, you should declare probably on your C1 reports the monies that come from the thousands of dollars that the Port of Kennewick is spending on advertising, telling us what a great job they're doing and what great financial condition they're in right now. You talk about a campaign boost, and he told me, I didn't know they were doing that. I said, Don, you didn't know that? And he said, no, I guess I don't watch TV. I said, the chairman of your commission is on TV telling everybody how great the port is and how financially viable it is, and you don't know it? And I guess my thought there was, as a port commissioner, you at least ought to know the ads that are going on television, especially when they're so helpful. But I don't believe in special interest funding.
That's an interesting recollection of our conversation. I recall that he asked me if I had seen any of the ads on TV, and I said no. I've only seen some of the Yakima National Bank ads. I have not seen a port ad on TV. I'm aware of them, so I take offense to the characterization of this conversation. I have a completely different recollection of it. Okay. When it comes to campaigning, I will make no apologies for going out and campaigning as hard as I can to retain a seat for a position that is as important to the community as I believe that it is. I went out with no goal in mind in fundraising. I received over 75 individual contributions to my campaign from friends and associates. I make no apologies for that. My family has been very supportive of this campaign. I make no apologies for that. I've been a realtor in the Tri-Cities for almost 15 years. I received the endorsement of the Tri-City Association of Realtors. I'm a longtime member. I make no apologies for that. Also, I received an endorsement from the Washington State Association of Realtors. I make no apologies for that. If those are special interest groups, I don't know what to say. I'm opposed to special interest monies coming in on a campaign. The difficulty lies in identifying a special interest group, or you can reach challenging or difficult situations if you feel you owe something in return for a contribution or a pledge. And so I make no guarantees or promises in return for campaign pledges or contributions. Thank you.
Okay. We have a slightly different question that has to do with the campaign that we'll give the candidates for District 2. We got a question that was addressed to Mr. Moak, and he will go first. But Mr. Bowman, you can relate this to your campaign and the messages you're sending out to the voters. It says, for Mr. Moak, what does pro-kids and pro-nuclear have to do, nuclear, I don't want to say that wrong, have to do with the port commissioner position?
I think if you look at the vision of the Port of Kennewick and the vision of Vista Field, and you look at the vision of Columbia Drive, I mean, it is all about creating an economic and community focal point for families. And so, I mean, I think being pro-kids, that means being pro-community. I don't understand the question why somebody should not be pro-kids. Being pro-nuclear, I don't see why somebody should be opposed to being pro-nuclear. I think if somebody is concerned that I'm not pro-nuclear, then I guess I don't quite understand. I'm proud to be both of those, and I think that to be able to let people know that is certainly something that's very important, and I think it's a good thing.
Okay. Is there any maybe possible misconceptions you've heard about your campaign, Mr. Bowman, you'd like to clear up?
Well, now, do I have the same question as Mr. Moak? Or
No, just
Okay.
about your own campaign.
No, I'm pro-nuclear. I've always been pro-nuclear, pro-kids. I have some. I have grandkids. I have great-grandkids, and they're the best in the world. I compare them to yours anytime. So if that's an issue, I don't think it is. I think the issue in front of the Port of Kennewick is creating jobs and stimulating jobs and family-wage jobs. So.
Okay. We're going to start with position 2, and Mr. Bowman, you're going to go first on this one. And I think it may have to be our last question. I will give you a choice, all 4 of you, between the Red Mountain development, Vista Field, the Columbia Drive development, and you can let us know, or if there's another project that we're maybe not aware of, what you're most excited about, what you think holds the most potential, what you think might change the community for the better the most, and let you speak on that project, and we will finish up with that one question and begin with Mr. Bowman.
The opportunities to face the Port of Kennewick that are in front of the Port of Kennewick are so great, so exciting. It's really hard to make a determination which one is the most important and which one would have the biggest impact. So many of those depend upon what is happening at the moment, who's ready to go, who's ready to build, which private industry, which private company is coming to town. When we're going to be spending only port money, then the board of the 3 commissioners need to sit down and make those priorities based on the information that's available at that time. Red Mountain, the area at the old racetrack, is very exciting. What can be happening, industrial and commercial out there. Downtown Kennewick by the Cable Bridge and those 3 properties down there is extremely exciting. If you will, bringing a Pike Street market down there is just very, very exciting. In my campaigning and my doorbelling, I've solicited at this point 2 different companies that want to bring their retail businesses down to the Cable Bridge area. So I think it's exciting. I mean, if they're ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Thank you. And Mr. Moak?
Well, I've been passionate about Columbia Drive and downtown revitalization for 25 years. But I think if you look at the single most important project before the Port of Kennewick, it is the redevelopment of Vista Field Airport. Because it's sitting right in the center of the Tri-Cities, because it is a neighbor to the Convention Center and the Toyota Center, because it is so close to this regional center of shopping, and because of its unique 100 acres of flat ground right in the middle of the Tri-Cities, I don't see how that could not be the most important project before the Port of Kennewick. I think that's why the Bureau and the Chamber and TRIDEC all supported the closure of the airport. It's not just a local Kennewick issue. This is a regional issue, and I really think that the ability to create jobs and to bring an economy and to create some very interesting and unique architectural styles to that area makes it the #1 project that the port has to deal with. And I think when the port chose to close the airport, I think there was a commitment that they were going to do something with it and not just leave it sitting there. And the port needs to follow through on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will now move over to District 1 and begin with Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. If I look at the three projects before the port of Red Mountain, Vista Field, and Columbia Drive, I think clearly the project with the single greatest potential and the single greatest impact on our region is the redevelopment of Vista Field. This is a redevelopment that is estimated to result in over $400 million of private sector investment. A recent study that I saw showed that the impact of that private sector investment on the tax-receiving entities or agencies, local governments here, is almost $13 million per year at build-out. This is a 20-year project. It's projected to generate numerous jobs. It's projected, or it has the potential to create something that's been identified as a missing element of the Tri-Cities. And in a recent study done for the Visitor and Convention Bureau, it was indicated that the Tri-Cities lacks an urban downtown identity. We don't have that single urban downtown identity. This is an opportunity to create that urban downtown identity, to help attract and retain young professionals to this area, give an area that is something that is live, work, it's mixed use, it's retail. It has tremendous potential, and that's something that I think has the greatest potential for the port and our region and community. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will finish up with Mr. Gibbons.
This is one area where Don Barnes and I totally agree. I believe it's Vista Field. When I was the director of the port, I had a vision that we could take an area in Richland and we could redevelop it into a beautiful business park. And we did that. The Spalding Park stands there today, housing many, many jobs and creating many millions of dollars in new tax base for the community. I think we can do the same thing at Vista Field. I'm privileged to sit on the Kennewick Public Facilities District Board, and with your help, the possibility exists that there will be a new convention hotel there soon, and the convention center will be doubled in size. The next stop will be a performing arts center. And I think that the city of Kennewick, the port of Kennewick, and many other people can put in the infrastructure at Vista Field where the private developers will come in, and it can be a gemstone of our community in just a few years. So Vista Field has my vote.
Thank you. And that just leaves us enough time for closing statements. Again, they only have 1 minute to sway your vote. We'll begin with District 1 and Mr. Gibbons.
Okay, again, along with my opening job application, if you were interviewing me, I think you'd like some references. So if you go to my website, again, John Gibbons, elect John Gibbons, there are a number of references, but I want to just touch on a couple. This says, John Gibbons was a Port of Kennewick executive director when I started my company. He bought into our vision, recognizing the community would eventually benefit from our success. For several years, he played a major part in our successful growth as the Port of Kennewick executive director. We need him with his vision setting policy for the port. That came from David Lippis, who's the chairman of Thai Sport, one of the largest manufacturing companies in the Tri-Cities and a graduate of the Port of Kennewick incubator system. John Gibbons is a great friend of the tourism industry. He fully understands it's important to the Tri-Cities, having served as chairman of the Visitor and Convention Bureau. He understands the port could and should play an important role in advocating tourist opportunities. Vijay Patel, the chairman of A1 Hospitality. We'll quit there, and I will thank you so much. I would welcome your vote on November the 5th, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. And Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. I was appointed to the Port Commission in May of last year from a strong field of 11 candidates. And in my first year and a half, we faced challenges and difficult decisions, such as Vista Field. I believe my record is one of sound judgment and decisions that are in the best interest of the taxpaying constituents. It was asked earlier what separates John from me, and I would have to say that I disagree completely about his contention that the port is in a shaky financial condition. Your Port of Kennewick has over $10 million on deposit, no debt. I believe it's a huge mistake to go after increasing operating revenues and competing more fiercely with the private sector for port profits when we're sitting on over $10 million and no debt. We should be working more on economic development and job creation. Also, if you remember nothing else about today, I hope you'll remember this. I'm very optimistic about the future of our Port of Kennewick. Think of the possibilities at Vista Field, Columbia Drive, and Red Mountain. I really enjoyed working as your commissioner, and I hope you'll retain me so that I can continue working for you. www.electdonbarnes.com.
That is absolutely not true.
Thank you. We will move on to District 2, and we will hear from Mr. Bowman.
As your Port Commissioner, I will encourage workshop meetings between commissioners and port staff and the citizens of the Port District, the cities, and their city councils and staff to help build divisions and to provide regular progress reports. I will encourage regular workshop meetings between the commissioners and staff to create the mutual visions for the port. We will then plan the strategies for the implementation of those visions. Your input will help ensure that port resources will be successfully managed and leveraged to their fullest potential. My personal mission has two parts. One is to create a major return on investment to port taxpayers and the region as a whole. And two is to fulfill the obligations of the port in stimulating job creation, family wage jobs. I look forward to serving you and the Port of Kennewick as a commissioner. I have the time available, and I ask for your vote on November the 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last candidate, Mr. Moak.
I am excited about the opportunities ahead for the Port of Kennewick, a vibrant Vista Field town center, a wonderful wine village economy along Kennewick's waterfront, a Red Mountain magnet at the old Tri-Cities Raceways in West Richland. Each of these projects requires vision and leadership. I have the vision to articulate the opportunities ahead. As a leader, I will collaborate with partners, align priorities, and bring that vision to life. In contrast to my opponent, I have a strong record and background in collaborating with diverse groups of people. I will work closely with my fellow commissioners to develop policies and a vision that will propel the port through these next 6 years. And I will elevate the work of the Port Commission to be more open to the public and will involve the public in creating the port's vision. thomasmoak.org is the website. I would appreciate your vote for Thomas Moak for Port Commissioner by November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind the voters that you get to vote for both of these positions. It doesn't matter which ward you were in. In the primary, you only voted in your ward or district. But in the general election, you'll get to vote for both positions. And in District 1, we have Don Barnes and John Givens. In District 2, we have Leo Bowman and Thomas Moak. And thank you all for participating.